Hey guys, if you're a Queen's Gambit player, probably you'll find a little annoying the Queen's Gambit accepted variation. Today I'm gonna show you my secret tricks to crush this line. Keep watching. What I really like about these tricks, we'll see very soon, is that we are risking nothing. It's not like all tricks where if your opponent falls for it, great, but if he doesn't, then we are in a really bad or probably lost position. This time, worst case, assuming he doesn't fall for the trick, we have a slightly better mid game. So good anyway. So we're playing Queen's Gambit. Black accepts the pawn on c4, and here we have like three main options. We can play knight f3, which is the main line here. We can play e4, which is central variation, and we can play e3, which is the odd variation, and is the line I want to suggest. The idea with the odd variation is that we are guarding the central pawn on d4, we are developing the bishop, getting the pawn back very soon, and then we could have a very good mid game, controlling the center, good development. We should be slightly better then. And if black tries to defend the pawn, then there would be many interesting tricks with a lot of poison. We are going to focus here on b5, which is one of the most popular moves among beginners and intermediate players, but also I would like to tell you how to play in case black plays something different. For example, if they try to defend the pawn with the bishop on e6, we have many ways to play. The engine is probably going to tell you like knight f3 or knight e2 going to f4. That's an interesting plan, or other things like knight d2. But if you want to keep things simple, I'm going to suggest this line. Just play knight a3 here. Black cannot play b5, so in the next move you're getting the pawn on c4, and you will have a very good mid game. Just develop your knight over f3, your bishop over d3, and this is going to be very well for white. The other move black can play here is e6, just ignoring the threat on c4, giving the pawn back. Then of course we capture the pawn and we develop at the same time, and this is going to be a very normal mid game. In the next moves we will play ideas like knight f3, we will castle, we will play knight c3, our queen will go to e2, the rook from f1 goes to d1, and this is a very important idea because very often black will try to undermine our central pawn with moves like c5 or e5, so the rook on d1 will have some ideas and some threats with the queen behind on d8. So let's go to the line where black tries to defend the pawn on c4, whatever it takes. So b5, then we're going to play this move a4, and the idea is that we want to disconnect these pawns. If we can disconnect them, they will be very weak, and it will be very easy for us to take them. So after a4, black can play some moves, but for example, a6 is a big mistake. We just take, there is a pin, and the rook is hanging behind. Another option here could be just accept the pawn on a4, but then we can just play queen takes a4, bishop d7, queen takes c4. This is a very good position for white. I mean, we are controlling the center, black has weak pawns over here, so white will always be slightly better in these positions. The other option for black is bishop d7. Then we are just going to recapture here on b5, and when the bishop takes, we have some options. If you don't want complications, you can just take here on c4 with the bishop and give a check on a4, and then let's say they block, we just take the bishop on c4. This position is good for white, we are definitely better, so it's a way to play. But if you want a tricky line, we can just play something like knight c3 instead of taking the pawn on c4, and this is very interesting. Here black can play some things. For example, they can play c6, we just play b3, again disconnecting and creating many problems with those pawns, so that would be better for white. But the line I really like is when they try to go back with the bishop. Here we have some ways to win, but this is probably the best move. Queen f3, we are attacking the rook here, and if black tries to block, then we have a combination starting with rook takes bishop on a6. If the knight takes the rook, we can capture the pawn on c6. This is a fork, the rook is defended right now, but the only move to get rid of the check is queen d7, and then the rook won't be defended anymore. So queen d7, we capture, and the only move again is probably queen d8, and then we can just play here queen takes queen, that's fine. But if you want to get more material, you can just play here queen c6 and queen takes a6. Of course, this position is decisive advantage for white. So after a4, the other line we need to analyze is when black plays c6, and this is actually, I think, the most popular move again among beginners and intermediate players. And this is when we have our favorite trick here, our secret weapon. Here we are going to trade on b5, and black shouldn't recapture here. And of course they are going to be in a bad position because we are also taking the pawn on c4 later. The problem here is that if black takes guys here on b5, we have a very strong idea, just winning the game, and it is this move, queen f3. The idea is that the rook is trapped, the rook is exposed over the diagonal, and there's nothing they can do to stop the capture of the rook. The best move for black here is just knight c6, and then we're just going to capture that knight on c6, then bishop d7, the queen is protecting, that's fine, but we already have a piece up, so we just go back with our queen, and we have decisive advantage. We can play here queen f3 for example, and this is going to be winning for us. Check out that video over there, I'm sure you'll like it. If you guys have any question, let me know in the comments, I will be happy to interact. Thank you, like, subscribe, see you on the next.